I was halfway through explaining the safety hazard in the warehouse when my manager turned his back on me to check a notification on his phone. I had been trying to tell him for 3 days that the shelving unit in Section 4 was leaning at a dangerous angle. But every time I opened my mouth, he acted like I was a fly buzzing in his ear. I stood there in the middle of the loud loading dock, my hands still covered in grease from the morning shift, watching him scroll through social media while lives were literally hanging in the balance. It was a level of dismissiveness that went beyond poor leadership. It felt like a personal insult to my decade of experience on this floor. My manager, a man named Greg, who had been hired from outside the company 6 months ago, always acted like he was too busy for the actual details of the job. He cared about the numbers on the screen and the speed of the shipments, but he didn't seem to understand that a collapsed shelf would bring everything to a grinding halt. I was the floor lead, the person everyone came to when things went wrong, yet Greg treated me like I was an entry-level temp who didn't know how to read a level. The frustration had been building in my throat like steam in a pressure cooker, and seeing him smirk at a meme while I was talking about a structural failure was the final straw. Greg, I'm serious. If those bolts snap, that entire row is coming down on whoever is operating the forklift, I said, raising my voice to compete with the sound of the conveyor belts. He didn't even look up. He just waved a hand at me as if he were shooing away a pestering child. Just put some yellow tape around it and get back to the manifest, Bill. We have 3 trucks arriving in 20 minutes and I don't have time for your little projects, he replied. The way he said my little projects made my blood boil because I had spent my entire adult life making sure this warehouse ran safely and efficiently. I realized then that he wasn't going to listen until something broke, and I wasn't going to let that something be a person. I didn't go back to the manifest and I didn't use any yellow tape. Instead, I walked over to the main power kill switch and pulled the lever, silencing the entire warehouse in a matter of seconds. The sudden quiet was deafening, and Greg finally dropped his phone as he spun around, his face turning a panicked shade of white. "What the hell are you doing?" he screamed, running toward me across the concrete floor. I stood my ground, my arms crossed over my chest as the rest of the crew stopped what they were doing and looked our way. "I'm doing your job," I told him. "I'm stopping the work before someone gets killed because you're too arrogant to look at a bent piece of steel." He started toward me, shouting about insubordination and how he was going to fire me on the spot. But I didn't move. I pointed to the security camera directly above us and reminded him that every word of our previous conversation had been recorded, including his refusal to address a documented safety concern. The warehouse owner, Mr. Henderson, happened to be in the front office and came running out to see why the production line had stopped. I didn't give Greg a chance to spin a lie. I walked Mr. Henderson straight to Section 4 and showed him the bolts that were already shearing off the wall. The owner's face went pale as he realized how close we were to a total catastrophe. Mr. Henderson didn't say a word to Greg at first. He just called the maintenance team and ordered a full evacuation of that aisle. Then he turned to Greg and told him to go to the office and wait for a representative from corporate. I stayed on the floor and helped the crew secure the area, feeling a strange mix of relief and exhaustion. Greg was gone by the end of the day.